I know I was here. I tried to reach out to my staff, and we were dealing with an emergency earlier, and I messed up.
So what exactly went wrong? And was that air traffic controller trying to do two jobs at once? I'm veteran New York reporter Derick Waller. Let's get into it. Now, back to the crash of Air Canada Flight 8646. The FAA staffing shortages have been a huge issue of discussion nationwide, and especially at LaGuardia, they have been chronically understaffed for some time. They've been working mandatory overtime, 10-hour shifts, 6 days a week. That's a lot of added stress for a job that requires 100% accuracy. Now, at the same time, a retired air traffic controller went on Canada's CTV News today and said that after listening to the audio, he believes that this controller who made that error in judgment may have been doing two people's jobs at once. Listen.
Under normal conditions, there would be a ground controller who is responsible for all the movement areas on the airport, including the taxiways, with the exception of the runway. That would be the local controller. Two controllers.
So you're suggesting it's possible this person was essentially doing two jobs, one person doing two jobs?
What I listened to just now, I think it's possible. That's not the way it's supposed to work, but it's late at night, and often when traffic gets light, and I can't tell how light it is there, very often positions get combined later in the evening, especially right before the midnight shift or the overnight shift comes in.
So on its surface, this appears to be a tragic accident. But if you look deeper than that, you'll see a federal workforce that is under immense stress right now. Again, working those mandatory overtime shifts, 10-hour days, 6 days a week, and it's been that way for years. Now, the FAA has been trying to hire more controllers, but a U.S. government accountability report from January says this. Listen to this, quote, "The FAA has been trying to hire and train more air traffic controllers who direct and manage flights. Yet even with about 200,000 applicants over the last several years, they remain short-staffed." And they add that the number of air traffic controllers has declined by about 6% in the last decade. At the same time, it says, there's been a 10% increase in the number of flights. That's because even when the FAA tries to fix this, the real issue here is with the pipeline, because it could take 6 years from the moment you apply to actually getting certification and actually working on the job. 6 years. Now, all applicants must pass an aptitude assessment and obtain a medical clearance and security approval before they are hired. And then there's lots of training here. Once candidates pass these initial screenings, they must graduate from a 4 to 6 month training course at the FAA Academy, followed by on-the-job training. Again, that is a 6-year process sometimes. Now, experts have been sounding the alarm about this for years. In fact, on his blog, attorney Brian J. Alexander, who was involved in litigation over the Boeing MAX 8, a crash with Ethiopian Airlines, he writes, "The ATC worker shortage is impossible to resolve overnight, and normal business operations cannot continue until safety is guaranteed." He says if this means longer wait times, more delays, or cancellations and fewer flights, then so be it. At the same time, hardworking Americans and their families shouldn't pay the price for the industry's shortcomings. That's a sentiment echoed by industry professionals. Listen.
There have been staffing shortages for decades. It seems as though the Federal Aviation Administration, the way I look at things, it seems they would almost rather pay overtime than hire more controllers.
Such a tragic situation. Of course, we have to also remember the two pilots who lost their lives here. An investigation is underway. I'm Derick Waller. I'll keep following this. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss those updates. And check out this story next.